There is a kind of silence that settles into a life slowly, not all at once, not with a door slamming shut, just quietly, the way winter comes, 1 degree at a time, until one morning you wake up and everything feels a little colder than it used to. Someone told you love was for the young. Maybe no one said it directly. Maybe it was just the way they stopped asking, the way the world started looking past you instead of at you, the way you stopped expecting your heart to be surprised. And somewhere in those quiet years, you started believing it. You folded that part of yourself away. You told yourself, I've had my time. I've loved enough. I'll be fine with what I have. But here's the thing about hearts. They don't accept that kind of silence forever. And right now, there may be someone in your life who's been carrying something unspoken for longer than you imagine. They haven't said it yet, but before this ends, you will understand everything. Stay, because what's coming next is something you were always meant to hear. There's a loneliness that no one talks about after 60. It's not the loud kind. It's the kind that sits beside you at dinner. The kind that follows you into a room full of people. The kind that whispers, you don't belong here anymore. You watch the world reorganize itself around youth, around speed, around things that shine brightly and briefly. And you, with all your depth, with all your quiet fire, with all the storms you survived and the grace you somehow kept, you started to feel like a book no one wanted to open anymore. You stopped expecting to be chosen. You stopped expecting to be seen. You started shrinking. Just a little, just enough to not take up too much space. But here's what no one told you. Depth is invisible to shallow eyes. And the person who has noticed you does not have shallow eyes. They have been studying you the way someone studies something rare, something they don't want to misunderstand. They see every single thing you've been hiding. And what comes next will show you exactly what they found. You think they see age. They don't. You think they see someone who has already lived their most beautiful chapters. They don't. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. When they look at you, they see someone who has been through fire and chose to stay soft. They see someone who has lost things, real things, irreplaceable things, and still shows up, still reaches toward other people with open hands. They see the lines on your face not as something to apologize for, but as a map of everywhere you've been, every choice, every sacrifice, every night you got through alone when no one knew how hard it was. They see your stillness and call it strength. They see your silence and call it wisdom. They see you hold your tongue when you could wound, and they think, I want to be near someone like this. You stopped performing decades ago. You stopped pretending to be less to make others comfortable. And that realness, that unguarded truth of you, is exactly what is pulling them in like gravity. They are not interested in who you were. They are undone by who you are right now. It didn't begin as love. These things rarely do. It began as a moment. One unremarkable afternoon when you said something honest in a room full of polite silence. Or the way you laughed at something no one else noticed. Or the way you stayed with someone who was hurting when everyone else found somewhere else to be. They went home that night and something was different. They couldn't name it. They tried to set it aside. They told themselves it was nothing. They thought about what people might say. They thought about the years between you. They thought about every reason this made no sense. But then the night got quiet, and there you were again in their thoughts. Not because they chose to think of you, because they couldn't stop. They tried. They filled the hours with other things. They reached toward other people. They told themselves to be practical, and every single time, the thought of you came back like a tide, soft, persistent, undeniable. And one night, alone in the dark, they stopped fighting it. They let themselves feel it fully, and what they felt was so real it frightened them. What that feeling was, and what they've decided to do about it, is exactly where we're going next. They haven't said a word yet, but inside them, a war has been going on for longer than you know. It sounds like this. What if she thinks I've lost my mind? What if he looks at me with pity? What if they say it's too late, that this is foolish, that I should know better at this age? They've started the sentence 1,000 times and swallowed it. They've picked up the phone and set it back down. They've stood at the edge of honesty and chosen silence. Not because the feeling wasn't real, but because real feelings are terrifying when you've learned the hard way that not everything you love stays. And so they wait. And every day they wait, the weight grows heavier. Every time they see you and say nothing, something tightens in their chest. Something that says, you are running out of time to be honest. Because here's what they know that they haven't told you. They are not afraid of your answer. They are afraid of living the rest of their life, wondering what you would have said. And that fear, that particular fear, is finally becoming louder than all the others. They are almost ready, and when they speak, nothing between you will ever be the same. Stop for a moment. Just breathe, because what I'm about to say has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. You have given so much, more than anyone fully saw. You held families together with quiet strength. You loved people who didn't stay. You rebuilt yourself. In the dark when no one was watching. You learned to need less, to ask for less, to expect less. And somewhere in all that surviving, you started to believe that wanting love again was somehow too much, that you had used up your share, that this was someone else's season now. I want to sit with you in that belief for just a second, and then I want to gently, firmly, with everything I have, tell you that it is wrong. You do not get a limited number of times to be loved. You are not a candle burning down. You are not past your season. You are a person with a full and beating heart who has earned, through every scar and every silent night, and every morning you chose to keep going, every beautiful thing that is still on its way to you. The person who has noticed you already knows this. They have seen the you that you forgot to value, and they are moving closer than you think. There will be a moment. You won't know it's coming. It will arrive in the middle of something ordinary, a quiet evening, a cup of something warm. Conversation that has no reason to become significant, but does. They will look at you and the words will come. Imperfect and trembling and true, they will say something like, I don't know how to explain this without sounding like I've lost my mind, but being near you feels like the only place I've been able to breathe in a long time. I'm not asking for anything grand. I'm just asking you not to. Look away before you hear this. I know we are not young. I know the world might not understand, but this feeling, this quiet certain feeling, is the most honest thing I have carried in years. And they will wait, heart open, hands empty, offering you the most vulnerable thing one person can offer another, the truth of how they feel. No performance, no strategy, just them, standing in the open, hoping you won't walk away. And in that moment, you will have a choice, not about whether to say yes or no, but about whether to finally, after all this time, let yourself be fully seen. If this found you today, it wasn't by accident. You didn't arrive here randomly. Something in you was ready to hear this. Maybe there's a name. In your mind right now, maybe there's a face. Maybe there's a moment you've been replaying and telling yourself meant nothing. Maybe you've been standing at the edge of something real and stepping back because you forgot that you are allowed to step forward. You are allowed to want this. You are allowed to hope for this. You are allowed to receive love without apology, without shrinking, without making yourself smaller to deserve it. Love after 60 is not a second chance. It is not a consolation. It is the real thing, arriving now. When you finally know yourself well enough to hold it without letting fear make all the decisions. The world may have told you your story was ending, but stories don't end when someone else decides. They end when you do, and you are not done, not even close. If this reached somewhere deep inside you today, write, I'm still here in the comments, because someone out there needs to know they are not the only one feeling this, and neither do you. Like this, share it with someone who forgot they were still worth finding, and subscribe, because you showed up today for a reason, and I'll be here when you come back.